Well, good morning again, and welcome to the second part of our adult formation series in the month of September. I'm Julian Borda, and today I want to delve a little deeper into St. Paul, Ellis County's identity. Today we'll be looking at our identity as a member of the Episcopal Church of the United States of America. So for those of you who may not be familiar with the Episcopal Church, what is it exactly? The Episcopal Church is a branch of the Anglican Communion, which we talked about last week, and it was founded around the Revolutionary time in the United States. And I'll just explain a little bit of the history of the Episcopal Church and how we got to be where we are. So in the early days of colonial America, in 1607, as you know, Jamestown was founded in Virginia, and that was the first English colony, and it was an Anglican colony. They had an Anglican priest there who would lead the community in worship and prayer, and from there, most of the southern colonies of the United States had an established Anglican presence. So just like the Church of England is the official state religion of England, so it was also the state religion of all the colonies. And so Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, and Maryland eventually, all had official Anglican presence. They were the government's religion. And so when the Revolutionary War broke out, one of the funny things is that many of the revolutionaries, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, a couple others, Alexander Hamilton, were Anglicans, were members of the established Church of England, and so you would have expected them to be loyal to England and not to want to become independent. But you can see also that, surprisingly, a lot of Anglican priests at the time also supported the revolution. A lot of them in the South, especially in Virginia, decided, no, we believe in this cause of liberty and democracy and some kind of equality, limited as it was at the time. And so when the revolution succeeded and all official ties to England in the colonies were dropped, that meant there had to be a change in the relationship within the Church of England churches in the United States. So they had to reorganize. They had to get a new bishop because they didn't have bishops in the colonies. They all had to go to London in order to get ordained, all the priests did. And so now they needed their own bishops because they couldn't be going to England each time they needed a new bishop. So they reorganized, and you might remember we were speaking about old and new last week. And one of the fascinating things about this time of the church is that they reclaimed something ancient that had actually been dropped a long time ago, which is that they elected bishops by ballot. They made it a democratic process of sorts. So in England at the time, in the Church of England, and it's still this way today, bishops are appointed by the king and by the prime minister. And obviously in America that couldn't be the case anymore. So what they did is they looked back to the old church, to the days of St. Augustine and Ambrose and Ignatius and a whole bunch of others from the 1st, 2nd, 3rd century AD. And they saw, how do we elect bishops? And they elected them, and the people would get a say. And so the Episcopal Church organized itself around the principle that our members are chosen by God and duly elected by the people of the church. And so even today, our bishops are elected. And yet, at the same time, we have maintained our status as affiliates of the Anglican Communion, as very closely tied to the Church of England. And so we have managed to keep old and new in a really beautiful way there, because we still recognize and cherish our English heritage, and yet we've been able to go a separate American way and develop our own Book of Common Prayer, which does not include prayers for the king, but instead prayers for the president and the Congress, and allows us to respond more effectively to our national situation, all the wars and famines and plagues and everything else America's had to deal with and is dealing with now. And so, thanks be to God, we have an Episcopal Church that identifies us both as Anglican and as American. And that we have a very strong commitment to the democratic ideals of this country and also to the ancient church, all in one. So that's it for me for today. I hope that is a helpful introduction to the Episcopal Church. There's, of course, a lot more to say, and I look forward to discussing it with you all. God bless you all, and have a lovely Sunday. Take care.